What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixels podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brad, joined by my co-host, Carrie.
What's up? Micah
will slide in very shortly, whenever he gets here. But man, what a week in video games, both for good and bad reasons. Typically when a company, does something stupid like Sony did last weekend into last week, the other companies like to use that opportunity to throw out like some stuff that won't be headline getters, but is like, the 5 p.m. Friday news dump sort of thing. Just because they know that they have the cover of someone else doing something really stupid. Very rarely do you see a company take the spotlight and shine it directly on them, completely unabated, the way that we saw Microsoft do this week. So let's just get right into it. The big story, obviously, that happened last week on Tuesday is, of course, right after recording the show, is that Microsoft announced the closure of 4 game studios, which are going to be Mighty Doom and Alpha Dog, which were 2 smaller studios, but the 2 ones that got all the headlines were Tango Gameworks, makers of Evil Within and Hi-Fi Rush, and Arkane Austin, which is the second Arkane studio, maker of the maligned Redfall, but also the critically acclaimed Prey.
Prey and Dishonored as well.
Yes.
They were responsible for the first Dishonored. Dishonored 2 was handled by Arkane Lyon. I think it's really telling that Microsoft made sure to frame Arkane Austin as the Redfall developer rather than as
of course.
The
that's the reason the studio closed, right? Is because because
Redfall was a critical and commercial disappointment. Full of many technical issues and whatnot. It was generally considered maybe like a 5 out of 10 game at best. But it's a real shame that a company that otherwise had a pretty solid track record, right? Like Prey in particular was widely critically acclaimed.
Mm-hmm. Notably didn't sell it incredibly well. To be
well, but to be also fair to the marketing team over at Bethesda, they didn't really put a ton of money into trying to sell it either.
Well, more on marketing in a second. The bigger surprise, arguably, was the closure of Tango Gameworks, because the Evil Within, again, games that were relatively well received. But even though they weren't like commercially like explosions, I think they did well enough.
They more than broke even. It's not like these were games that cost a whole hell of a lot to do. Tango was, notably founded by Shinji Mikami. And then, of course, in line with Shinji Mikami's pedigree, did a handful of survival horror games between Evil Within, Evil Within 2, and Ghostwire Tokyo before taking a hard pivot into critical indie, I guess not so much indie, but critical darling Hi-Fi Rush.
Well, what's funny is that so he wasn't really even involved with the development too much of that game.
No, he had left the company.
Right, and he left the studio last year as well. But Hi-Fi Rush was critically acclaimed and by Microsoft's own accounting, commercially successful, because if you guys recall, Hi-Fi Rush was the game that last January during a developer showcase that Microsoft did was shadow dropped and was available on Game Pass right away, and kind of like took the zeitgeist for several weeks early last year, and was a fantastic rhythm character action game that we had no idea was even being worked on at all. And I remember there was a story that came out weeks later where Jeff Grubb of Giant Bomb said that the game had underperformed by Microsoft standards, obviously because it was on Game Pass, and they went out of their way. Aaron Greenberg, who's I believe one of the VPs at Microsoft or at Xbox, tweeted that like Hi-Fi Rush exceeded our expectations by any measurable metric, essentially.
Yeah, worth noting, Hi-Fi Rush by August of last year had reached 3 million players between confirmed purchase copies and confirmed Game Pass downloads. Which is no number to fucking scoff at. No. Even Game Pass sort of aside, it still means that people are going out of their way to download the game and play it.
Yeah. And then the other, so there's a couple steps through this past week, because like this story just kind of developed as the week went along last week. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was from Dinga Bakaba, who runs the Arkane Lyon studio. He runs the other Arkane studio. Has been with the company for a really long time, and we often talk about the people who lost their jobs in these things, but it also impacts people that stick around. And I'll read his. He put out a series of tweets in the wake of this news last Tuesday, and I'll just read them verbatim because I think that his words really tell a good message from how people feel that are in the industry, especially that are at sister studios. Quote, "This is absolutely terrible. Permission to be human. To any executive reading this, friendly reminder that video games are entertainment, cultural industry, and your business as a corporation is to take care of your artists and entertainers and help them create value for you. Don't throw us into gold fever gambits, and don't use us as straw men for miscalculations and blind spots. Don't make our work environments Darwinist jungles. You say we make you proud when we make a good game. Make us proud when times are tough. We know you can do it. We've seen it before. For now, great teams are sunsetting before our eyes, and it's a fucking gut stab. Lyon is safe, but please be tactful and discerning about all this, and respect affected folks' voice and leave it room to be heard. It's their story to tell and their feelings to express." The thing that, like, again, Redfall notwithstanding, obviously Redfall landed poorly, was a dud, a lot of money wasted. I get all that. It's one thing to punish studios for failures, right? You know what I mean? Like it's unfair. Like, it seems silly that studios basically get one shot nowadays, and the minute that you make a critically or not even a critically unsuccessful game, a commercially unsuccessful game, that you're done. But if Tango Gameworks is going to close on the back of Hi-Fi Rush, so you can't even make a success and be considered safe at this point.
Like, again, Hi-Fi Rush had solid sales numbers, especially for a completely new IP that's completely different from anything that the company had done previously. They did 3 survival horror games, and then Hi-Fi Rush, won multiple awards, won Golden Joystick Awards, won a Game Award last year, was nominated for the DICE Awards, won Best Audio at the GDC Awards this year, won Best Animation for the British Academy Games Awards this year. Like, all over the place. Critical, commercial, by any stretch of the word success, it met the word success, and they still fucking closed the studio.
Right. Because
for seemingly no legitimate reason.
And I'll get into Sarah Bond's comments later on, but Matt Booty the day after this made some noise because they had Xbox had a town hall with their studios, and I'm going to quote him now, because obviously this happens and you assume that Microsoft is like pivoting strategy and this, that, or the other. According to Matt Booty, quote, "We need smaller games that give us prestige and awards." So essentially, they need more Hi-Fi Rushes. According to Matt Booty. Apparently not aware in any way, shape, or form that he just closed the studio that made Hi-Fi Rush. Good job, you fucking numbskull. This is parody. Like, you can't make this shit up, right? Like, you can't, if someone wrote this and guess what the head of Xbox is gonna come out and say tomorrow after this happens, and you wrote that, like, you dismiss it for being like a Veep episode, basically, and the hole was dug deeper by Xbox president Sarah Bond, who I assume had a interview already scheduled with Bloomberg at their tech summit last week. But obviously, in the wake of this news, you would expect a company executive to come prepared to be able to speak about this stuff. And all she did was give a lot of platitudes, a lot of mealy-mouthed non-answers. She talked about how the industry has been flat year over year, which, again, that's been the justification that is, laid out there. And then she was specifically asked about the closure of Tango Gameworks, because the interviewer that was talking to her said, hey, this studio made this game that was incredibly successful for you guys, that drove a lot of interesting Game Pass and this other thing. So why did you shut this studio down? Here's her answer, and again, I'm quoting here. To the question of why did you close down Tango Gameworks, the makers of this highly successful game, Hi-Fi Rush. Quote, one of the things I really love about the games industry is that it's a creative art form, and it means that the situation and what success is for each game and studio is also really unique. There is no one-size-fits-all to it for us, and so we look to each studio, each game team, and we look at a whole variety of factors when we're faced with sort of making decisions and trade-offs like that. But it all comes back to our long-term commitment to the games we create, the devices we build, the services, and ensuring that we're setting ourselves up to be able to deliver on these promises.
It's a whole lot of words to say.
What the fuck was that?
It's a lot of words that don't really say anything. It's basically, of course, she starts off this thought by saying like, oh, well, success is unique and the definition of success is unique to everyone. And then probably immediately something in her brain went off that remembered that Hi-Fi Rush sold essentially 3 million copies, probably helped sell a lot of Game Pass subscriptions, and won a fuck ton of awards. And then she just talked herself in a circle for a minute and a half.
Yeah, I mean, like a politician would be jealous of such a non-answer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And if anything, like the game was given away because like the big thing that she wanted to talk about was that Microsoft is announcing a mobile game store that they have rolling out this summer. Because, that's worked so well for other companies, including Xbox. Xbox famously, the store that cannot beat Steam on their own platform.
Yeah.
On Windows. Games for Windows was a massive failure on Windows. The platform that Microsoft owns. And that's the thing that kind of sticks in everyone's craw here. Like, it's, we talk about, like, Embracer Group's mishandling of their studios and their acquisition spree. Even bigger companies like Take-Two and stuff like that. Microsoft is a $3 trillion organization. That's how much Microsoft is worth. The development of a Redfall, despite being a massive flop, despite the unnecessary expenditure of tens of millions of dollars probably, is a rounding error for them. Like it doesn't impact Microsoft in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it impacts Xbox. I'm sure Microsoft looks at their different divisions individually within Microsoft. Like they're not, they're just not looking at the company as a whole. I'm sure they evaluate them all standalone. And I'm sure that was a big hit for Microsoft. And I'm sure Microsoft is in tough times right now. But the reason that it's beneficial to be a huge company that has a lot of diversified interests is when one of your divisions is not doing so great, the other divisions that are doing much better can keep them afloat and lift them up. Like it does not have to be this, cutthroat, everyone must be profiting and increasing growth forever and ever all the time, except it does have to be because that's what capitalism. That's what capitalism dictates. Is now. And it's embarrassing, and it's embarrassing because I look back to the big mea culpa interview that Phil Spencer did with Kinda Funny last year, where he talked about how they need to be accountable for making sure that games don't come out in this state, but they're here for the studios and they want people to be creative and stuff like that, and they don't want to just make these cookie cutter games. Well, except they kind of do. Like they're looking for this thing that's just going to kind of bring in guaranteed money all the time. And, we marveled at them and said, hey, good job on you going out and acquiring all these well-regarded smaller studios with the intention of putting out these smaller games, except that you gave these studios like a chance to do that. And then you're cutting them off at the knees regardless, because I guess you didn't realize that it was going to take times to sow those seeds and to reap those rewards. I just don't understand the whiplash. And I guess I do, because again, they're doing the same thing that every other tech company is doing, in the wake of flat industry. And it's not just tech companies, it's every company. You know what I mean? That's dealing with this right now. But it just seems like that they don't know what they're doing now. Like their strategy is completely scattershot, as evidenced by more news that came out, a report that came out last week that said that Microsoft is now considering not putting Call of Duty, like the next Call of Duty game, on Game Pass day and date. And they're considering having people having to go out, even on Xbox platforms, and purchase the new Call of Duty for $70 when it first comes out. So I guess Game Pass isn't it anymore. Like I guess that we've milked all that we've milked that teat for all that it's worth.
Yep.
Because if you're not going to put Call of Duty on Game Pass, why'd you bother? Why'd you bother spending that money? $70 billion on Activision. Why'd you bother?
Yeah, none of that makes any sense to me.
I
got nothing. It's so stupid.
But it's like hey, Game Pass was really great for a while, and it just kept growing and growing and growing, and then they hit the plateau, and they're like, oh no, we thought this would just keep subscriptions would just keep going up forever, and it's just like, guys, again, there is no such thing as infinite growth. There is a limit to this at some point, and you have to keep people coming back to the platform, and now Sony, frankly, looks like geniuses for hey, we're not putting our first party games day and date on our paid service. You got to be kidding me! People will buy these games, but Microsoft has set the expectation now that hey, you don't have to buy Xbox games anymore. Yeah, you can just buy our service and we'll give them to you. Maybe not. How do you think that's going to go over? All of a sudden, you don't have a reason for me to, if you're a Call of Duty fan and you're buying Game Pass just for Call of Duty, and all of a sudden it's not on Game Pass until 6 months after it comes out. Well, fuck, why am I playing this on Xbox? Why won't I play it on PlayStation?
Right. Why do I even have Game Pass? Right.
And I think what it comes down to is just if you are any, newly acquired first party Microsoft studio in the past 5 years, you're you're probably freaking out right now, right? You can't trust Microsoft anymore. If they're willing to take Tango Gameworks, who just made, again, one of the most critically acclaimed games of last year, Shadow Drop, again, a game that was successful despite no previous announcement, no marketing around it, dropped without any, without a release date or any, just appeared out of the ether. And that game got them tons of plaudits and eyeballs around the industry. And if that studio's not safe, fuck, man. Guess what, Ninja Theory? You're on deck. The new Senua's Sacrifice game comes out in 2 weeks. Did you know that, listener? I sure as shit didn't until someone told me on a podcast, because I haven't seen fuck all for advertisements around this game.
Nope.
Not a one. Not a one. So again, and you would say, well, it doesn't matter because Microsoft, as long as it's critically acclaimed and helps them get Game Pass subscriptions, it'll be fine. Well, no, it won't be. The game could get fucking 9s out of 10s across the board, and they could close Ninja Theory tomorrow. We don't know. We don't fucking know. And by the way, the review, they let the review embargo go 2 weeks before the game came out, so we're already seeing reviews, and the reviews are, it's good. It's not great. It's not a genre-defining game. It's more of what made the first game successful, but it's fine. That's not going to cut it. Ninja Theory should be very worried right now if I were them. And so should every other studio. Is Obsidian safe because they have Grounded, and so they have this game that constantly brings in players and income? Or do they get a shot with Avowed, and if Avowed doesn't land a mega hit, is Obsidian, or maybe they just cut the part of Obsidian off that's not maintaining Grounded, and they fold the other ones back into Microsoft proper? I don't anything's on the table now.
Right. It's all right, cool, let's hope that Avowed is good, and let's hope that, maybe Avowed gets some of this new audience for that style of game that now exists because of the success of Baldur's Gate 3, right? Mm-hmm. But, it's Obsidian, by and large, has had largely critically acclaimed games. This is the studio that did Fallout New Vegas. This is the studio that did Pentiment. But like, what happens if the Outer Worlds 2 comes out and is just sort of like, eh?
If we even
Like,
get it, what if Matt Booty sees what's going on with the development of that game, isn't convinced that it's gonna hit, and he's like, you know what? We've already spent enough money on this. We don't need to spend any more. Let's just close up shop now.
Yeah.
You don't know.
It sucks. It sucks that Microsoft owns so many smaller studios that I really like. Because at this point, it's a crapshoot. Because, you know, who knows if Obsidian is going to have the opportunity to potentially make, you know, a Pentiment sequel or anything like that.
Oh, there's,
you know,
if Game Pass is not going to be the focal point of their business model, which again I don't know that it is anymore. If you're talking about not having Call of Duty on Game Pass, then you're not getting Pentiment 2. No. according to Josh Sawyer, that game only exists because Game Pass existed.
Yep, because of how they were able to basically sort of gamble by making it a Game Pass day one sort of thing, so people would have the opportunity to like play it without necessarily spending money on it, right? But yeah, it's like you can't fucking trust Microsoft one fucking bit anymore, because they're clearly not here to do the right thing. They're here to do the thing that's going to make them the most money.
They're not even here to do the thing that they said they were here to do a year ago.
Yeah.
Or at this time, they're like again, they everything that you heard from Phil Spencer over the past year, literally, take it with a grain of salt, because they're not, because their actions are not following their words. Micah, we spent the whole first block of the show talking about the Xbox studio closures, about how if you're a first party, a smaller studio at Xbox, you're probably shaking your boots right now. If you're Ninja Theory, you're probably shaking your boots right now. What are your thoughts on all that news from this week?
Corporations are going to corporate. I mean, you know, it's incredibly sad. It's also, you know, for all you bland loyalists that love video games and love your Xbox specifically, like, how can you how can you accept this, right? Like, this is just sad, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of these people thought like, wow, like they bought into it, right? Because they gave a really, really good pitch, right? Like they gave a great, like, hey guys, come over here. We're gonna take care of you. Look at our flow chart of people who work here. Aren't we diverse? Like, we got you, right? And you know, it just sometimes, you know, this is like the dream for independent people, right? Like, they want to work on something like big and to have a big corporation say that they're going to back you. I don't know, man. It's just sad. It's just really, really sad.
And by the way, like, don't, like, we're throwing shade at Microsoft right now because they're the ones that are in the news right now. Don't think that Sony would is not measuring the amount of fire that Microsoft is under right now and thinking to themselves, like, what would be an acceptable amount of shrapnel to get on us, depending on what studios we want to close.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
You know what I mean? Like it's like you know, it's not like that they're angels in this. I mean, Sony's closed plenty of studios this year already in a short amount of time. Just not ones on the same, you know, level as an Arkane Austin or a Tango Gameworks. So they absolutely could be right behind.
But like, they did still lay off like 900 people this year.
Yeah. It's
just a slightly more nebulous, like, 900 people.
Right.
But 900 people fucking regardless, which is probably, I would wager, a larger amount of people than what Microsoft.
Oh, you're forgetting the other 1,800 people that Microsoft laid off earlier this year as well.
Oh, yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, forgetting all about that little chest and all those redundancies that they got from picking up Activision. So. And then the icing on the cake, I don't have it on the docket, but I just wanted to mention it real quick. Fucking Mike Ibarra continuing his just show my ass to the entire world tour after leaving Blizzard. In the wake of people, being sad about developers and the unjust corporations, this motherfucker, Mr. fucking, I wish I could tip my game developers because I just want to give them more money. This guy's like, guys, I understand that we feel bad for the devs, but won't somebody please think of Phil Spencer, who's probably really hurting having to make this decision?
He said he will be hurting as much as anyone else following the closure of multiple studios. Like, I don't think he will, Mike. And quite frankly, I'm tired of these goon-ass idiots sitting at the top of the food chain just being like, oh, it hurts so bad as they wipe their tears with fucking $20 bills. Like,
fucking Helen Lovejoy out here. Won't somebody please think of Phil Spencer? Like, get the...
Oh, come on. I shutting up is free, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you or Jay who says that, but shutting up is free. That's the thing, man. And this is what I'll never understand, especially about guys, man. Guys, they want to get into these arguments and stuff. Whoa, men's rights and all that. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Cause look, as quiet as it's kept, we're doing all right. Shut up.
Especially ones that look like me. We're doing just fine.
I mean,
what the fuck?
Yeah, there's a lot I could say about it, but I will simply leave it as too many men are taught from a very young age that their word is valuable no matter what their word happens to be. And that's why we have a lot of dumbass fucking dudes out here running their mouth all day long without any consideration to what's actually coming out of their mouths. So, as Micah said, shutting up is free, and I suggest our good friends Phil and Michael consider giving that a try next time.
I think that's a great time for me to shut the fuck up and listen to some ads, and we'll be right back with more wonderful industry news. So, if you thought that the explosion from last week had fully dissipated, you're wrong about that as well. But first, some good news. So, we're finding out the Helldivers community is a unique community in video games. We talked last week about how Sony decided to kick the own goal and require PlayStation accounts on Helldivers 2, therefore making the game unplayable in literally 80% of the world's countries, and having to delist it, and getting review bombed by an organized effort by the Helldivers community. We talked last week about how Sony, in the dead of night over the weekend, was like, you know what, that was actually a terrible idea. Let's go ahead and reverse course on what we're doing here. And that same Helldivers community put out a major order to the community called Operation Cleanup, where they then encourage people to go revert their negative reviews that they gave in order to turn their reviews back positive again. And in a short amount of time, they got the game from sub 50% positive reviews to back up to mostly positive 72% and still climbing. So quite a interesting effort on the Helldivers community, and ones that Arrowhead Studios and Sony should be very afraid of if they're able to organize with such efficiency if they decide to start fucking up later on.
This is what happens when people such as myself are fascinated with fascism from a fictional perspective. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say
we do what is best for our leader, for the thing that brings us joy, and you should be afraid.
So that's a cool story, a cool coda to that story. But the news isn't all good. Sony did say that they were going to back off of the PlayStation restriction. However, they are dragging their feet when it comes to re-enabling purchase and play of the game in those studios where they, and by the way, Sony did this, not Steam, where they delisted it for countries that could not have a PSN account. Arrowhead's kind of like wringing their hands, like, guys, can we move it along? They're like, yeah, we're trying, but it's apparently slow going for Sony. And not only that, but they are proactively now, Sony is, refunding customers who pre-purchased Ghost of Tsushima on Steam in those affected countries because they cannot sign up for a PSN account, even though a PSN account is only required for the multiplayer Legends mode inside of Ghost of Tsushima. You do not need a PSN account, according to Sony, to play the single-player portion of the game. So, Steam users across the parts of the world that don't have access to the PSN have been getting email refunds back from Steam saying, hey, you're not going to be able to play this game, so we're going to refund you now. And so, I think that just kind of shows you how quickly and how haphazardly the decision by Sony was to revert on this, because they did not have all their ducks lined up. They were just kind of desperate to get the news out there that they're doing it.
Yeah.
So
that's for fucking sure. Yeah, I mean, sucks. This was not a smart decision by Sony on any front. I guess, we can be glad that they immediately backed off of their Helldivers 2 decision, but it seems that they still
under pressure.
Under a distinct amount of pressure, yes. Yeah, I don't know, guys.
Are corporations okay? I don't think so. Because we got because not satisfied with letting Microsoft and Sony take all of the oxygen in the room when it comes to corporations doing shit things.
Here comes EA.
EA, like is that EA's music? Like all of a sudden, like Andrew Wilson's coming down the ring. And it's like, hold on a second, guys. Like no one around here is going to take the title of 2-time worst company in the world, Electronic Arts. So there's 2 EA stories this week. The one that's been getting less attention, and to me seems more problematic, maybe you guys will agree with me here. According to Andrew Wilson, there's a real hunger, quote unquote, among developers to use generative AI to speed up development of games. So according to Andrew Wilson, developers are just really fucking hungry to use AI to do some of the more mundane tasks, like building, like replicating soccer stadiums in EA Sports FC, and like duplicating like new animation cycles and things of that nature, and being able to use AI to do this would cut down on the development time tremendously in order to be able to focus on other aspects of the games. And it's not EA that wants to do this, mind you. It's the developers that really want to make sure that they're using AI in a smart way, and not at all in a way that is going to be exploitative in any way, shape, or form, to just make development go from a 3 to 5 year timeline to a 1 to 3 year timeline.
And to make staff go from 500 to 250.
I have a few thoughts on this. One, I am not a fan of what we currently call generative AI. So like your fucking Midjourney bots and your things that steal from a lot of people off the internet without their consent and then spit things back out that have no soul, right? Not a fan of that. That being said, there are applications of AI within games and within game development. We've actually already seen it happen recently. I want to say most notably was in FF7 Rebirth, was AI was used to help animate the characters' mouths in different languages so that the game could be dubbed into several different languages and the mouths would still match up with what was being said. A lot of that work was done by AI, which is a perfectly cromulent use of AI. That's what that should be used for, is to take these very time-consuming, mundane tasks, like, again, mouth animation, to make sure that things that are in full animation, such as, the characters in 7 Rebirth, are still matching up with what is being said, regardless of what language it's being said in.
By the way,
I don't necessarily...
I was going to say, to piggyback on that, like, in one of the examples that he gave, I actually agree with him. Like according to him, like when they have a new stadium that they have to put into EA Sports FC, it takes 6 months to build that stadium, which seems insane. Whereas AI can do it in 6 weeks. And again, like something where all you're doing is you are putting in the game a digital facsimile of a real structure that exists in the world. Mm-hmm. Yes, like I can see where you might want to use AI to do that, and that kind of makes sense because you're replicating something that already exists in the world. You're just making a digital version of it. I could see where that makes sense, but I think you're getting to the slippery slope that
of course. Once you reach the point of potentially using AI voiceovers or AI art, we've already had issues with AI art being put into games and whatnot. At that point, it's like, okay, now you're like actively taking jobs away from people rather than like making someone's job easier and speeding up the overall process. You are now actively removing artists and, developers from this equation, which is not what should be going on here. So I do think that, like, yes, there are tasks such as the recreation of stadiums for sports games, such as mouth animation across different languages and stuff like that, that could benefit and have already benefited from smart, reasonable use of AI technology. This being EA, however, I have no doubt in my mind that they will immediately start doing the worst possible things with it, and that we are going to get just absolute slop shoveled in our general direction that's been churned out by AI with little to no oversight from the people who are supposed to be making worthwhile video games. Obviously, we will see. But yeah, while there are very good uses of AI, I do worry that they're going to use AI as a way to try and really automate games and start churning them out much faster at the expense of, 1, people's jobs, and 2, actual quality worthwhile video games. So we'll see.
Look, Jay calls me a Luddite whenever I bring up any type of criticism about the use of AI. He thinks I hate AI. I don't hate AI. I use it. Whenever I edit my photos, I use it to take stuff out. Like if I got a stand or something, I don't want it there. Just select it, type remove, gone. Right. I'm using it as a tool. Right. Like I can easily paint that stand out. It's so much faster to just type remove and it's done. Right. Yep. So I'm not against using it as a tool. What I'm not doing for my photo example is saying, I want this background in my photo. Like, I'm not doing that. I can find my own backgrounds, right? Like, I'm not generating anything new. Look, if you wanna use this as a tool, that's fine. But the problem, and I use guns as an example. Guns are great, guys. Like, guns are awesome. Like, you ever shoot a gun? It's dope, right? But maybe there should be some restrictions on it. That's all. That's all. I'm not saying don't use your guns. I'm not saying don't use your AI.
But, like, maybe have some reasonable rules and restrictions about how these things can and should be used. Maybe we don't train AI based on scraping a bunch of people's artwork off the internet without their knowledge or consent. Maybe we don't train AI text box based on, the entire New York Times, newspaper history without paying the New York Times. That's what that, like, you want to know what's going to happen to ChatGPT is they're going to lose that fucking lawsuit against the New York Times, and it's going to get shut down, and I can't fucking wait. I mean, the other thing about, a lot of generative AI stuff that people haven't really been talking about yet is the lack of sustainability involved in a lot of these processes, that basically even just entering one prompt is the equivalent of taking out like a bottle of water and just dumping it on the ground. So it's very wasteful. It's very unsustainable technology currently. So that's the other thing to really keep in mind. I think AI, as we've discussed already at length today, there's a lot of great uses for it. But yeah, as Micah said, there's got to be some rules and restrictions in place here about how it can be used, what kind of data it should be trained on, that sort of thing. So like, yeah, for example, like an animation AI assistant should be trained on lots of footage of people speaking in different languages, so that when you run it through and say, hey, this person is speaking Chinese, that they can animate a mouth to approximate what's being said in that way. Like, yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfectly fine, reasonable use of AI.
Right. What's not a reasonable use is, hey, I need a Chinese character, like person, make one for me.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
I think there has been no greater argument for the existence of a human soul than AI art and AI music and AI writing, because boy howdy, is it all just perfectly soulless, isn't it? Like there's no intent or meaning behind any of the slop that AI tends to churn out.
It's like,
and it all looks the same,
the Cliff Notes version of the internet basically is what is what AI kind of succumbs to. So
yep.
So that was the new shit, like that. So that's the new stuff off the new album that EA decided to bring forward, right? So the investors were like, "That was cool and all, but we also want you to play Freebird." And Andrew Wilson was more than happy to oblige. So on an earnings call, Andrew Wilson was asked by Eric Sheridan from Goldman Sachs. Of course, it was a fucking investor.
Of course, it was a fucking
from Goldman Sachs that asked the question. About dynamic ad insertion into AAA games. Back to this old chestnut again for EA. They're so excited. So and Andrew's like, yeah, absolutely. We want to figure out how we can get ads in games without people getting really pissed off at us like they did the last time that we fucking did this shit. Holy shit. We absolutely can't wait to fucking monetize people for the $70 game that they already paid just by making them watch commercials. It's gonna fucking rule.
Yeah. He said, advertising has an opportunity to be a meaningful driver of growth for us. We have teams internally in the company right now looking at how we do very thoughtful implementations inside of our game experiences. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you real quick. I am never going to fucking give EA a red cent out of my fucking paycheck for a game that has in-game ads. There's a difference, and here's the thing. There's a difference between product placement and, like, a commercial, right? Like, if I'm playing FIFA, Madden, I fully expect there to be banners in the background of the stadiums that are advertising specific products and whatnot, but that's part of what an actual in-person sports experience is like as well. So, like, there's a difference between that and then being forced to fucking sit through a commercial while the next level loads. Which
if people remember, and you might not because it was during the pandemic fugue of 2000, they did in UFC 4. They literally put an ad for the boys that you had to sit through as your match loaded and could not skip. And people were like, "What the fuck do you think you guys are doing?" And they quickly. Got it out of the game. So, we tried to sneak that one past you. Obviously, it didn't work out too well. 2K did the same thing in NBA a couple of years ago as well. Micah, my question for you is, when you go to transition to a new region in Dragon Age Dreadwolf, how excited are you for your Doritos Cool Ranch commercial that you're going to get to sit through?
Look, I very famously on this podcast was not a fan of a certain product placement in a fantasy game. And so
it's cup noodles, Carrie.
Cup noodle from Final Fantasy 15. I hated it. It was a fucking food truck.
It was really stupid, but also it was kind of funny.
Like, god damn it. So look, I'm barely there with product placement outside of sports. Like you said, if I'm playing NBA 2K and I don't see a Sprite ad, I'm like, well, this is dumb. Right? Like,
is this even an officially licensed NBA 2K?
right. But no, the people are not going to just look. I share my Paramount Plus account with Jay, and he turned it on. The first time he turned it on, he was like, "What the fuck is this?" Because I cheaped out, right, and I got the ad version because like I'm not paying twice as much. Just to not have a 2-minute ad, right? Like whatever, I will go somewhere, right? And he was pissed, right? Like what is this? What is this commercial? People don't want to sit through commercials in their on-demand entertainment. Mm-hmm. They just don't. Like a lot of people don't watch on-demand entertainment over, networks because like
let me tell you something. I've talked about this on the show before. I'll reiterate it. The best $12 a month that I spend is on YouTube Red, because whenever I'm not logged into YouTube and I get an ad, I am the most irrationally angry person you've ever met in your entire life, because I haven't had to deal with ads on YouTube for years. I don't even remember that they exist. Like so when I see one, I'm just like, what the
ad
fuck?
blocker that gets rid of them.
Now what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen, right? They're going to implement this. It will become the standard, and then the new standard will be, if you don't want ads, pay for the adless version.
Yeah, the $80 version of the game. Yeah, because they're already seeing streaming services do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So not enough to pay $130 a year for Amazon Prime. If you don't want ads on that Prime Video, you better kick us another fucking, what is it, $6 a month or whatever the hell it is to get the ad-free Prime.
I have no idea. I'm sitting through those fucking ads. Get out of here.
So
turn that shit on and go to the bathroom.
Right.
Dude,
I use it as an excuse to get up and like make my coffee. Like,
I can't wait to see what audacious attempt EA makes here, because you know that whatever they do is not going to be subtle and well integrated. So like I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what happens.
How else would you implement like commercials outside of loading screens? Like I have no idea.
Again, other than doing Final Fantasy 15 as product placement, you mean? Like that's the only other thing I can think of.
And it's a double-edged sword, right? Like you want to tout the fact that like, wow, your developers are so skilled that they're using every inch of these machines so that to reduce loading, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't mask it. They do all these little tricks and stuff, right? Like if you have to transition to a new area, you got to kind of squeeze through, right? Like, are you gonna have? Are they gonna have pop-ups? Oh my God, they're gonna have pop-ups, yo. They're gonna have pop-ups from when you transition into a new area. They're gonna have like the a crawl or something like next time on Fox. It's Family Guy,
or instead of like how most games like give you like the little tips at the bottom during loading screens. Like they're gonna it'll be an advertisement instead.
Oh my God!
And you know what the best part is? You know what the best part is? They're literally, because the new machines nowadays have gotten so fast at being able to load the content, since everything's on SSDs now, they will purposely slow down the load times because they want you to see the ad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, dude. What the fuck? Yo, we're inching ever so closely to a cyberpunk future, yo. I don't want it. I want to read about it. That's it.
Oh my God!
Damn it!
Oh, speaking of the big six companies that are going to rule all of our lives one day, the mega corporations. This is in This Week in Layoffs, not because there is actual layoffs to talk about besides the Microsoft ones, but because to me,
we've got a foreshock.
These are inevitable, right? This news tells me that Rocksteady is on notice right now. According to everybody's favorite media executive, David Zaslav of WB, he says that on the Warner Brother earnings call last week, their quarter's financials took a hit due to the, quote, disappointing release of Suicide Squad, which, of course, is the latest game from Rocksteady Studios. If I'm Rocksteady, I don't really like the fact that my fucking company CEO went out and blamed us for the reason why Warner Brothers Discovery missed their quarter in their financials.
This is fucking ridiculous. First of all, like, to blame a game for your entire business model not meeting your earnings, fuck you, right? and two, like, fuck you, like, what the fuck, yo, like this is ridiculous, man. And who would have thought that, see, like, they were chasing good money after bad, man, and I just don't. If they'd have just made another Batman game,
well, that's the thing. That's the great irony, is whose decision was it to chase a live service trend? Right. I guarantee it wasn't Rocksteady's. It wasn't Rocksteady's. No way, no hell.
Jesus They're going to basically be told, how dare you make the game we asked you to make? How dare you make the game that we decided to give you money to make, and then it didn't make all that money back, and then some.
And not that Zaslav was there when that decision was made, but, like, at the same time, I feel like that every CEO on these video games like when they talk about video games earnings is just the fucking hot dog suit guy. Like, we're all looking for the guy that did this.
It's the fucking Eric Andre meme.
Yes.
Damn, why did you make me do this? Who did this? What the fuck?
Yep.
God damn it.
So look, like I said, not looking forward to that news, but I have to believe that it's coming, because that is not a good signifier that happened. Finally, in the last news story, a bit of a lighter story, but still, a little sad. Reason number 738 why the three of us are happy that we no longer work for GameStop. GameStop is now planning to purchase single Pokemon trading card game cards from individuals so long as they're graded by the Professional Sports Authenticator Service, and they're only taking 8.0s or above.
And they have to be graded by PSA,
yes,
which last I checked was very backed up as far as grading is concerned. And, like, leave it to GameStop to decide to get into Pokemon cards
3 years late,
about a year and a half after the Pokemon card market stopped being really big.
I mean, there is not a single trend in the games hobby industry that they are not 2 years late to the party to GameStop.
No, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, it's very, very funny. Now, what's really going to happen here, of course, is they're going to take in potentially some high-dollar Pokemon cards, which will then immediately be stolen, probably by the employees. Because, speaking as a GameStop employee, not saying that I did this, but it's remarkably easy to steal from GameStop as an employee. And it's very easy to slip even a graded and slabbed card into your pocket at the end of the night and just walk the fuck out of there if you know where your store's cameras blind spots are. So ultimately, GameStop's probably going to lose a lot of fucking money on this. Because what's going to happen is they're going to take in graded cards. Those cards are going to disappear and they're going to show up elsewhere on auction sites. Or they're going to be traded into a different retailer. For even more money. For more money than what GameStop would have given them.
Or you'll see that's a good key pointer there. Forgot about that aspect.
Yeah.
Or you'll see what GameStop always does. And I remember when I first got there, it was at the very tail end of the when GameStop had been taking DVDs and UMD movies in trade. And I remember that my store at the gallery downtown Baltimore literally had boxes and boxes and boxes just full of DVDs and UMDs that nobody wanted. No case, just sleeve, just in an envelope. And I don't know if I made the decision or if somebody else made or if GameStop finally just cut bait and had us send them all in to, to corporate to get destroyed. But I mean, I'm talking they're across the company, hundreds of thousands of stuff that they paid good money for that just sat because they bought it, nobody wanted it, and it was just a written off expense at the end of the day. And to me, like, I'm sure there's some cards that'll sell really well, but I could see them being stuck holding the bag on a lot of these.
They're going to be holding the bag on a lot of cards. And again, that's if people even decide to go to GameStop, because why the fuck would anybody go to GameStop when almost everyone is probably within reasonable driving distance of their friendly local game store or comic shop that deals in Pokemon cards and Magic cards and will let you sell them single cards far more than likely, even without them being graded. I have recently sold ungraded Pokemon cards to multiple comic shops. And so it's like, you have to understand that, like, people who get things graded are doing so because they are either preserving it for themselves, or they are going to put it in like an auction, or they're going to take it to like a show and sell it at a show. They're not going to get something graded to give it to fucking GameStop. Like, it's absurd to me. This entire line of thought is absurd to me. It would be far different if GameStop said, we will take ungraded cards, but they have to be
that would be
holographic.
A fucking nightmare.
Nightmare.
I'm glad they're at least putting the grading restriction in place, for Christ's sake. So,
but that it has to be graded means that someone would have had to have gone out of their way to get it graded
and pay for it. Like, that's a service you have to pay for, is it not?
Oh yeah, grading isn't free. Okay. Grading isn't fucking free. Ultimately, there's the looking at the PSA site currently, it's $25 a card, and that's an estimated turnaround time of 45 business days. So that's 9 weeks minimum. And that's standard imaging on the front and back. That's $25 a card, and the declared value of the card has to be $500 or less. So if you're someone out here with one of these first edition Shadowless Charizard's base set stuff, at that point, the declared value of some of those cards gets into, $1,000 or more sometimes. So now you're having to spend probably $75 a card. And that's now, now you've got to go and, it's a much less turnaround time. Higher value things have a tendency to be put towards the front of the line as far as grading is concerned. And then, if you are doing things in bulk, you could potentially get it as low as $15 a card, but still, you're still waiting, for the bulk cards. That's still, there's $200 or less. If it's up to $500, that's $19 a card, and that's a 20 card minimum.
20
card minimum.
Point
and
is,
the point
it's
is,
a stupid thing for GameStop to get into.
It's a very stupid thing for GameStop to do, and the people who would be going out of their way to get cards graded again are not going to take it to fucking GameStop. They're talking to auction houses. They're going to be doing things on eBay individually to try and get the maximum amount of dollars out of it. GameStop is trying to flip Pokemon cards 2 years after people stopped flipping Pokemon cards seriously. Yeah, it is. It's a very GameStop thing to do, though, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yes, that is the moral of the story.
Yes,
it is the most GameStop thing to do.
I have all of my old cards dating back to 1998. And I have some cards that are worth quite a lot. And I am never going to take them into a fucking GameStop. this is going to last 6 months. They're going to lose a lot of money on it, and then they're going to stop offering this.
Yes.
I'm going to call that right now.
That is correct.
I'm given 6 months is my over-under here. So
that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take another break, and then we'll be back with some bona fide discussion about actual video games that we've been playing. Stay tuned. So last week, I had played exactly 1 hour of Hades 2 since it had literally dropped mere hours before we recorded the podcast. I have now played about 10 hours of Hades 2 and can speak much more eloquently on the game, and so can Carrie.
Uh-huh.
And I gotta tell you, despite it being an early access, I don't think there is a single aspect of Hades 1 that Supergiant did not at least look at and improve in some way, shape, or form. Like from the highest level to the most mundane thing in the game. Like so we're not gonna get the story spoilers, but like the way that combat feels in the game, like all of the weapons in the game are different than the weapons that are in the first game. And you can see where they took some inspiration, some bits and pieces of weapons from the first game and kind of retooled them, but to make something that's completely new. I mean, again, just the fact that Malinois has, instead of like that cast that shoots a projectile, has like a portal that will hold enemies in place, completely changes how you can approach certain combat encounters. And of course, they've redesigned all the enemies to be able to take advantage or disadvantage of those new skills that you have. There is so much more to explore in this game than there was even in the first Hades. And Carrie and I were talking about like specifics before we started recording on the show today. And like there are things that I've discovered in the game that she hasn't even discovered yet. Like there are places that she's gotten to the game that I haven't even seen yet in 10 hours. I don't think it's a story spoiler to let you know that like there's not just the one pathway through the game anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's multiple places to go. Multiple regions that you can visit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like it's almost like there's two Hades in one, essentially in this one. And,
basically.
And the way that like, you know how like in the first game, with the exception of the Seder area, the fourth area in the game, like all the areas were kind of designed structurally in the same way. Like you went to a room and you beat things up and all that other stuff. It's very different in this game. Like the first area feels like that traditional Hades stuff. The second area,
I would say even the first two areas kind of feel.
I find the second area so difficult to play in because it's
a little claustrophobic.
Tight. It's
a
little
tight. Claustrophobic, yeah.
And then the third area is enormous.
Yeah, the third area
like it's huge.
Are like, here's an open world where there are multiple things to pick up before you can unlock the door to the next area. Yeah, I was surprised at how big that area was for sure. And then the fourth area kind of feels similar to like the Seder tunnels.
Well, it's on purpose though. It's kind of like and we won't spoil what the fourth area is, but there's a reason it's designed the way that it is. Resource gathering. So like there and Mike, you know this because you played a bunch of Hades. Like you know how like when there's some runs where you just know a couple like after you get past Tartarus, you're just like it's not happening. You're not getting the boons, whatever. And so it's kind of like a waste, right? So in this game, there are more resources to farm in the game, but the thing that they've done that's very clever is they've separated those resources from the room rewards. Like the resources that you farm are in addition to the rewards that you get for the different rooms. So even if you're on like a bum run that you don't care about, it's still worth it to persist to farm more of those resources. So like every run that you do matters.
Still kind of counts.
Like it's all progressing the game forward as you go. The boss fights both feel so the first boss fight felt very familiar. The second boss fight is one of the most creative boss fights that they've had in the in the franchise. Like it's kind of like this game's. I told Carrie this game's Theseus and the Minotaur fight. But who you fight and how they present that trope is very clever and very funny at the same time, and that's all I'll say about it. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
The third fight.
Holy
shit.
I was, ooh, buddy. I was upsetty spaghetti about the third fight.
And not only that, but I think that third fight, honestly, is the hardest boss fight in the whole Hades series. By my estimation.
Okay,
yeah.
I have not been having problems with it.
Oh no, I barely eked it out the one time that I did beat it.
The first time I got to him, I beat him.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I've been handling him pretty solidly. Like if I can get to him, I'm usually pretty good, but sometimes like in that third area, I'll get my ass kicked before I even get to him.
Yeah.
And then I've more frequently had times where like I will beat that boss and then like I will have just no gas left in the tank.
Limping out. Yeah. To the next area.
So
I feel like the characters are even more well written. Like there's more interesting characters because there's more people who just aren't like there to pat you on the back and stuff like that. That like there are people who are lot more.
It's like there is a war happening between the gods and the Titan Kronos. That's not a story spoiler. Like that's basically been well revealed in the trailer that like you're trying to take down.
Kronos is the big bad. So
Kronos is the big bad of this game. And it's the idea that like, there's no like, in the first game, Zagreus was sort of like lying to the gods here and there and playing little tricks on people to try and get what he wanted. Whereas in this game, it's just like, it's everyone against Kronos and like everyone is on your side. But there's still the sort of like Olympus gods versus chthonic gods sort of weirdness, and Nemesis is kind of a bitch for really no reason. But I do like so many of the new characters a lot. I like even some of the unfinished artwork for some of the characters because it is still in early access. So some of them just sort of have like concept sketches in there, and some of them have just like full placeholder art. You don't even have any
even characters you'd expect. Like I would think that Charon would have art in the game by now, but like he just has a placeholder.
Charon's got a placeholder, but like at the same time we sort of know what he looks like because like his in-game sprite, I think it's just his sprite from the first game that they're reusing currently. So I imagine he will get a completely updated design, similar to like, Hypnos is there and he has a full updated design, and many of the Olympic gods from the first game return with completely new designs and whatnot. Yeah, so I'm not as far. I've only played about 6 hours so far. And yeah, so like I have gotten to Kronos once. I managed to get past the first phase, and then I was so gassed by the end of that first phase that literally he like poked me at the start of the second phase and I died, and so it was fine. But yeah, it's more of Hades. Like I'm not a roguelike person. I don't go out of my way to play roguelikes otherwise. I started playing Hades basically because the BGSO did our indie season, and I was trying to play as many games on that program as I could. And now of course I'm in a fucking Hades metal band. You should stream Premium Vintage on Spotify. But it's such a good game, and like it's very easy to pick up, and then you can make the game easier for yourself. I am not ashamed to admit that I do play on God mode because I'm not good at these games. I'm not. And I'm not going to pretend to be. I just really want to play it more for the story and the experience of doing so, rather than to like prove that I am good at video games, because I'm not good at this style of game and I'm not going to try to be. But it's very accessible as baby's first roguelike. Even with the sort of more advanced systems in Hades 2 over the first game, like the increased amount of resources and the requirements to unlock certain things and whatnot, and the way that you upgrade your playable character, Melanoe, It's all a little different. That's sort of my one gripe, is that I don't think the game does a great job at explaining Melanoi's like upgrades and whatnot. Like it's tarot based, and you can only have so many like things active at a time based on how high your grasp is.
Micah, to give you, or to give listeners a comparison, it's the pick 10 system from Call of Duty, apparently, or pretty much, where you have like a certain number of skill points that you can allocate, and different abilities cost a different amount of points based on how powerful they are.
Okay. And you can increase the amount of grasp that you have, but like literally, if my partner was not like, this is how you do it, I would not have been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I do think that area needs a little bit of finesse, because I don't think the game does a good job in its current early access state at really explaining how a lot of that shit works. But yeah, I mean, I like Melinoe a lot. I like that she's a witch, and so she's got sort of like a mana pool in addition to her health pool.
Well,
so
that's the best part about the combat, is that having the mana pool literally doubles the amount of maneuvers that you have access to, because every attack that you have is a standard version, but it also has an Omega version, which is like the charged up version that spends mana out of your mana pool. And the boons also correspond to different versions of the attack. So like some boons will upgrade your standard attack, whereas some boons will only upgrade like the Omega version of the attack, and stuff like that. So like it gives you more things to customize on the run as well.
Yep.
It's like I said, I can't remember if I said this last week, but I'm saying it definitively now. If you were waiting for full release and you have the ability to get it on early access, just fucking get it now. Like seriously, just get it now. Like even what is there right now is going to be better than like 95% of the games that are on the market, and it's only going to get better as the game develops. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's impressive how much of a finished product this game feels, knowing that there's still probably at least 9 months of development time ahead of it. So
yeah,
Micah, I am sorry that you have to wait, because
I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
I love that first one, so I can't wait for this one.
A game that came out of early access that I have now checked out, because I bought it while I was in early access but didn't really play too much, was V Rising. V Rising is a new take on the survival genre, which combines your typical survival game where you're resource gathering and building, encampments and things like that, with a like a Diablo style combat system, like isometric action combat. And it's so because that's there, it's kind of like the most appealing survival game to me. But I think the problem might just be that I'm just not down with survival games. I'm finding out. So again, like the game is it's an action RPG. You're a vampire. They really lean into the vampire-ness of it. Like the sun can literally damage you as you're walking around during the daytime, so you have to like stay in the shade when you're in the day. You have to drink blood from creatures in order to keep yourself sustained. Then you can heal your hit points using the blood that you've absorbed. The other cool thing they do with blood is that every opponent that you find in the game has a blood archetype and like a blood quality, and that's the class system in the game. So like when you feed on something, based on what type of blood they have and how good it is, unlocks like stat upgrades for you. But the thing is that your blood continually is ticking down as you go through the game. So at some point, you're going to have to top up. And when you feed on something else, it replaces the blood that you have in you. So like even if you get this like really good creature that has good blood, you don't just get to keep that forever. Like you have to eventually, but then there's a way that you can later in the game. Like you can unlock like holding cells that you can like capture people and literally just like keep them to be like a fucking blood mule for you that you can constantly go back home and feed on them when you need to top yourself up. And shit like that. So that stuff's really cool. The combat feels really good. It's not like it's Diablo style combat, but it's not like the mowing down of like hordes of enemies style. Like it's a bit more deliberate, a bit more challenging than that. And kind of the premise of the game is you're going out, you're gathering resources, you're trying to build your castle. You're trying to build better gear. As you build better gear, you increase your gear score. There is no like experience leveling in the game. It's all gear score. And there are essentially like, it's like a boss ladder, that there are bosses in the world, and you have to get to a certain gear score to match up with them. And these are like, they're called like, they have V blood in them. There's like a catastrophe that killed all the vampires in this world, but somehow the blood got to some of these, uber people in the world, and you want to kill them to get their blood, right? And so you go out, you hunt them, and when you kill them and you drink their blood, that's how you unlock like your new abilities and how you unlock new shape-shifting forms and stuff like that you can upgrade. And that's kind of the progression loop through the game, is you want to go through and kill these bosses and build like the coolest vampire castle that you can. And like the building tools in the game are really good. Like it's a really solid game. You can make a really cool looking castle with lots of cool furnishings and gear tables and stuff like that. The problem is that while it kind of onboards you in a very gentle way, like all these survival games do, once you get about 5 hours in, then you're at that like really grindy, like I need so many resources to be able to do these next kind of steps sort of thing. And it hasn't, pardon the pun, sunk its teeth into me as much as I was kind of hoping that it would have at this point. And I'm thinking it might just be because, I don't know, guys, like as much as I like grinding stuff in games, I don't think I like grinding materials in games as much. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to see if I can find the happy medium. This is definitely the survival game I've stuck with the most. The most before this was probably Don't Starve, and I only lasted like 3 hours in Don't Starve, so that did not do much for me. But V Rising is good, but I don't know that I'm the target audience for it.
Solid. I recently revisited Fallout 3 because I watched the Fallout Amazon series and got the itch to play Fallout again. But much as my deepest part of my soul wanted to replay New Vegas again, I instead went, you know what? I haven't actually sat down and played Fallout 3 in more than a decade. So I'm going to do that. And I'm kind of glad that I did, because the game is a lot better than I remember it being. I feel like as someone who like played a little bit of 3, but like never finished 3 before playing New Vegas and then going back and finishing 3 and being sort of meh about it after playing New Vegas, I think having this sort of like distance from past playthroughs did a lot. It also helps that like I'm from Maryland and I spent a lot of time in DC and Northern Virginia throughout my life because that's where my father is from. So that's where we would go to visit family and whatnot. So there's just like, there's a very special flavor of nonsense present in 3 that I really like. It's like, yeah, okay, the main storyline is sort of so-so, but then at the same time, it's like, a lot of the side quests are a lot of fun. Annandale is full of cannibals. You have to go steal the Declaration of Independence at one point, where you meet a robot that's convinced he's one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the ways that you can get the actual declaration to take it to a city that exists on a boat in the Anacostia River is to lie to him and pass a speech check where you're just like, hey man, it's no problem. You can give me the declaration because I'm Thomas Jefferson. And he's just like, you know what? You're right. You are Thomas Jefferson. I can't believe I messed this up. Please go ahead. It's like, there is still that level of humor kind of present in the absurdity of the situation, right? Everything about being like, okay, cool, you have to like fight a literal army of super mutants on the National Mall in order to put a radio dish at the top of the Washington Monument for a guy named Three Dog. Like, there's just it's very charming in its own way, and I feel like it doesn't really get enough credit because ostensibly objectively New Vegas is still a better game. But I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. I've also been playing through a lot of the DLC for the first time. I never really fucked with the DLC previously. It's like I had done a little bit of Broken Steel, but not all of it. I had never done Operation Anchorage before. I did that for the first time, had a lot of fun with it. I hadn't done Mothership Zeta before. I'm about to do that. So yeah, I'm just like, I'm having a really good time with Fallout 3. And I think it's a perfectly worthwhile game to revisit. I know you have a lot of people getting into 4, particularly since they just did the next gen update for 4 after the release of the Amazon series. And then a lot of people are playing 76 for the first time, which I also think is great. I'm kind of tempted to get back into 76 myself as someone who played a lot of it when that game first came out and was not very good. But I enjoyed it for as not good as it was. So now that it's a good game, I would like to play more of it. So yeah, I mean, Fallout 3 is a lot of fun. I think if you're someone who watched the Amazon series and you want to play a Fallout game, I think Fallout 3 is one of these games that's like $8 on Steam these days for like the full version of the game. Yeah, how much is it on Steam right now?
Let's find out.
I'm checking. Game of the Year edition full price is $20.
Oh.
It's a
and
game
I'm sure
that
it goes on sale all the time.
It goes on sale a lot. So like wishlist that, wait for it to drop to 50% off. I think it's worth $20 to play for sure. That being said, I will throw into the caveat that I started the game with the mod enabled that allows me to skip the intro because the Vault 101 section kind of sucks. It's like an hour long, and
but you don't want to have Liam Neeson like telling you what's what?
I mean, look, I love Liam Neeson. I do. I love Liam Neeson a lot. I think he's a fantastic actor. That part of the game is not fun. And I think that's a big turnoff for a lot of people playing Fallout 3 for the first time, is that the tutorial section is long. It's a lot of exposition. It's a lot of hand-holding. As, you know, this game... You also have to understand Fallout 3 was the first in this current, like, Bethesda style, right? Because Fallout 1 and 2 were the isometric top-down style games. So they had to do all this stuff to not just onboard people who were new to the Fallout franchise, but to onboard existing Fallout fans into what Bethesda was going to do with this franchise from there on out. That being said, it sucks, and you can just skip it, and you can get read through a Cliff Notes version of what happens story-wise, or you can just listen to me. You grow up in a vault, and then your dad leaves, and everything goes wackadoo, and you have to fight your way out of the vault and go find your dad. That's it. That's all that really happens.
That's pretty much it. So,
but look, it's fun. Fallout's good.
Mike,
Fallout 3 doesn't get enough credit.
Is it you or Jay that's still never seen the National Treasure films?
The movie starring Nicolas Cage.
Okay, I figured it was Jay, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, I've absolutely.
It just, like I said, just like when Carrie was talking about stealing the Declaration of Independence, that's obviously
perk up. I'm
the
like,
first
wait
thing.
a minute, that's Fallout 3. I might have to play it.
There you go. Oh, by the way, also Hades 2, Micah. They the character Narcissus is one of the characters you can come across, and they very obviously gave the direction to the voice actor to play him as Nicolas Cage, essentially. So just you have that to look forward to whenever you get to Hades 2. We will take one more break, and then we will head to the post office. If you're not a member of our Discord, don't forget you can go to densepixel.com/fans. Join up, and that lets you post in the Dense Pixels post office to ask us questions that we will actually move through pretty quickly this week, because this is a very long episode already. And we'll start with Matt Kogo G, who says, favorite movie or TV show you think would make a good beat 'em up? The answer is John Wick, is it not?
Thank you. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Even though they have made a John Wick game, but it wasn't exactly a beat 'em up. Amir asks, how far away are we from getting an increase in Game Pass? Doesn't seem to be working. If Xbox is still closing Studios. I think we get to $20 a month before the end of the year for Game Pass. That's my prediction.
I wouldn't know. I dropped Game Pass a long time ago, and that's something. Because if there's anything I like doing, it's wasting money. But the product is just not. I honestly, guys, I can't tell you the last time I turned my Xbox on. I really can't.
Yeah.
It's literally sitting over there as a prompt, not a prompt, as a stand for Daredevil and Spider-Man. Like, that's all it's doing.
Buried in action figures. You can at least still see your PlayStation.
Yeah. How can you not? It's a big-ass
That's true. That's a good point. Film Wander says, did the latest ad from Apple justify why getting a new iPad isn't worth it, especially having seen so many physical things being crushed to, quote, demonstrate what one life-sucking monitor can do?
Boy, howdy, what an ad, right? Like,
here's the thing. You know how, conservatives have completely destroyed the meaning of the word woke in this day and age? Like the word is now meaningless because they have conscribed their terrible definition of I don't like this to that word, and so now the word no longer holds meaning. I felt that the reaction to this ad is an actual example of people sometimes being just a little too woke. Like little too woke.
I think it's one of these things where yes, some of the reactions to the ad is a little over the top. That being said, as someone who works in marketing, I can't believe that they approved that ad.
Oh, it's in poor taste. No doubt about it. It's in poor taste. Yeah.
Tone deaf advertisement for a product. I think
you have me at a loss.
So there's an ad so for the new iPad, Apple put out an ad where they have a bunch of like musical instruments and art supplies and all these like contemporary like physical like creative items that they crush down in like a hydraulic press, like a massive hydraulic press, and then when the hydraulic press raises, there is like the super thin new iPad Pro that they're advertising, as if to say, look at all these things that you can compress into this digital slab, and how amazing is this that we made this product, and it's fucking great. Like I said, I get what they're doing. Is it kind of a like tone deaf, as Carrie said? Yes. Do I have a new iPad Pro coming to my doorstep on Wednesday? Also yes. So take what I'm saying. Take what I'm saying with look. It was time for me to upgrade. My current iPad Pro is 4 years old. It's showing its age.
I have never owned an iPad, and I haven't really wanted to own one until I started going to like. Basically, the only reason why I kind of want like an iPad currently is just to have an easy thing to have sheet music on when I'm at like a jazz jam or something.
I mean, I use mine daily, so it's my main like video consumption device. So I got to keep upgraded. But again, people,
you can give me your old one, and then I can use it for lead sheets.
I have one. It's my main device for getting my kids to shut the fuck up.
We that's what the Samsung tablet is for. not the iPad. T-Wash says, what game did you play once and never again? Let me tell you something, T-Wash. In this day and age of free games being handed to you left and right through subscription services and trials and stuff like that, the list is endless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a ton of them, man.
Yeah, there are so many games that I've played once, and
here's one. I mean, like picked it up, played it for 15 minutes, and then never went back to it. I don't know that I have too terribly many like that. But I mean, a game that like I played through once and then had no desire to like ever even consider getting the DLC for was the first Outer Worlds, which I think is, for as much as they touted, we have the creative team of the first two Fallouts and New Vegas involved with this game, and it's gonna be like Fallout but in space. It wasn't Fallout in space. It was mediocre, and I have no desire to play any of the DLC, nor am I excited about the sequel. So that's my answer. I played it. I really played it.
What
I've never
what was the last game you bought and didn't really and just wasn't feeling it, right?
Didn't
Like,
jive with it.
yeah, it's just like, all right, I gotta take this L,
See
right?
if I buy it, I'm gonna give it more of a chance than if I get it for free. So like that's
Look, I mean, look, even if it's on a discount, I bought Gotham Knights on a
Oh,
steep
buddy,
discount, and
buddy.
I played it for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm just like, yeah, well, that's fucking $10 I'm not gonna get back.
I'll tell you the last one that I did was this isometric roguelike shooter that was kind of like, you know, what if Diablo guns and Borderlands had a baby, and like all the videos that I watched, like, wow, this looks really cool. And I bought it called Dust and Neon, and I played it for like 45 minutes, and I was like, I don't think I like this game very much actually. So that was the last one on my list that I just scrolled through on Steam.
You want to know what mine is?
You know what another one is of mine that people are, I guess, people might give me shit for? Deathloop. Didn't really care for Deathloop. I gave it a shot, man. I really tried to like that game.
Here's a cousin to Deathloop because it's by the same developer.
Dishonored
For
is
me, no, Starfield.
Oh, okay.
I put a total of 11 hours into Starfield. And a big part of the reason I uninstalled the game, which is very rare for me to actually just be like, I'm just taking the L on this. It runs like shit on my PC. Now, I have heard that they've done a myriad of improvements to improve the game's performance on PC, but my PC runs virtually everything else great, and couldn't run Starfield within a fucking country mile.
I'll give you my notable one. Witcher 3. I bought that. I played through the tutorial area where you fight like the Griffin and shit like that. And now, granted, I played the game 5 years after it came out, and that's a game that, as timeless as people say it is, not in its combat. It shows its age very much for motion promotion, and I have not ever returned back to it. So. T-Wash, or no, sorry, not T-Wash. Johnny says, between the big three consoles, not a Kendrick joke, who is fucking up the least?
Nintendo.
Obviously Nintendo.
It's obviously Nintendo. And I will tell you a few reasons why, if you are listening and you're like, but how is Nintendo not fucking up? One, they aren't doing mass layoffs. Sony and Microsoft.
They literally can't. Layoffs. Like, it's against the law.
That being said, you do have Nintendo of America. You do have Nintendo of America, which is technically a separate entity, and Nintendo of America is not held to the Japanese labor laws and could theoretically do mass layoffs. They haven't. Two, they are far more transparent about their plans regarding upcoming consoles than I think they even really need to be. They literally came out and said, hey, guess what? We are working on a successor to the Switch. We will be talking about it before the end of the fiscal year, but it will not be in our June presentation. Our June presentation are focused on Switch titles that are coming out before the end of 2024. We are not talking about the new hardware on that next presentation. So please set expectations accordingly, which I think is just a refreshing bit of just being upfront and transparent with your audience that the other two could learn from. But yeah, Nintendo is staying the course. Obviously, the Switch has done a insulting amount of money for the company in the grand scheme of things. They're doing great. They're making money. They're not laying people off. They're working on the new console.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm going to skip Amir's second question because I think we could use that as a jumping off point for a bigger discussion next week. But we'll go with Justin's last question. It says, what is a game that you love playing but never finished? For me, it was God of War Ragnarok. One from each of you. Game you love playing but did not beat.
Spider-Man 2. Still haven't finished it. I'm like maybe 40% done.
I didn't love Starfield, and I didn't finish it. I'm like right at the end. A game that I did like that I didn't finish. Come back to me. I gotta look at my list.
Okay, I'll give you two. Octopath Traveler 2. I got to the end boss, and just didn't feel like grinding through it. That's a very typical JRPG thing for me, by the way, to get to the very last boss and be like, It's too much work. And the other one was just had it. Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, The Witcher.
Oh, I also haven't finished Baldur's Gate. I got to Act 3 and I was like, oh, there's a lot to do here.
Yeah.
I gotta take a break. Didn't go back.
So there you go.
Yeah.
3.
What was yours, Micah?
It's Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
It's the collective,
Baldur's Gate 3.
The collective show answer. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you guys for your questions. Thank you guys for hanging in for a supersized edition of Dense Pixels this week. Don't forget to check out the other TNP shows. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube or podcatchers or both. And don't forget to sign up for Dense Pixels Premium at densepixels.com/premium. $5 a month, $50 for the full year. Look, only one place to go from here, guys, and that's further down. As we have more terrible industry news, I'm sure, next week.
Yay.
But until then, thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you the next time.
See ya.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here, and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.